Hey there, everyone. Welcome to another video of mine. Thank you for coming to my YouTube channel. Today, I'm warning you. You ready for this? I'm going to be ranting about student loans and the politics that are behind this. I originally wrote about this late April, saying about the different states that are involved in these lawsuits to prevent the student loan forgiveness and the SAVE plan from the Biden administration. So before we get into that, let me read off these list of states here. You have Alabama, Alaska, Arkansas, Florida. We like to say Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Iowa, Louisiana, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, and Utah. Now, those are all the states that are involved in a lawsuit against the Biden administration to prevent them from forgiving student loans. Think about this for a second. If you have student loans and you live in one of those states, and this actually happens, are you going to continue living in that state? I'll tell you why the answer is no, and it really comes down to math. But before we get into that, let me complain a little bit about Alaska because I never been to Alaska. I would actually move to Alaska. I love being outdoors. It's got to be a beautiful place to live in. So I know it's cold. I won't get to play as much golf, but it would just be awesome to live there. But Alaska provides a subsidy to the residents from the Alaska oil fund, whatever they call it. And last year, the amount was, I believe, exact $1,312 per member of the family, including children. So a family of four gets more than $5,400 at the end of the year. If you add that up over 20 years, it's about $105,000. Alaska, and I'm going to call that an entitlement, right? Doesn't that sound like an entitlement, a giveaway, a freebie? With all those people talk about the Bernie Sanders haters who say, all these entitlements and just giving this stuff away and communism, whatever. Is there a difference with giving you $1,300 a year for doing absolutely nothing other than living in that state? Hmm, that's arguable. But that's not my issue, although Alaska's hypocrisy is just amazing. Look at this. First place, all those states that I just rattled off, those are all Republican led states. The reality is this is a political issue when it should really be a financial issue. But I guess the two don't mix. And that's the problem when people are not aware of these issues and don't understand. So the second post that I focused, kind of related to this initial post about these different states, was a new study was done that showed something, the age group of 55 and above, there's something like 2.2 million of them. They owe approximately $54,000, and how this affects their retirements and savings and everything else, which is what I wrote about in my first blog 2 months before that article came out. Here's the common sense thing about it. And let's talk about Indiana because even if they allow student loans to be discharged, Indiana has taken a stance, Mike Pence's former Vice President Mike Pence's state, that they'll still tax you on the difference, basically a 1099. Now I've always loved that because I've always wondered how is it that if I get foreclosed on and the mortgage is 200,000 and you sell the house for 100,000, how do I get a 1099 for 100 grand? 1099 for income? I never made 100 grand. I lost 100 grand. How are we associating debt with income? I don't know. But go with that 1099 of an extra $100,000 that they add to your tax returns to a 1099 and tell the bank, I want a better house and a better car now because look, I have an extra $100,000. Besides calling security and throwing you out of there because you're not making any sense. But that's what the law says, doesn't it? I've always said this. I'm going to keep saying it. Creditors have better lobbyists than you. So keep that in mind. All right. So the sun is coming in through this side now. You'll see that there. What can I do? I can't control Mother Nature. And I'm also not a famous producer where I can control the lighting. And I'm not redoing this video. So we're stuck with these bands here for now. But um, you're looking at this issue and to argue the politics behind it, and the politicians hope, they're begging that voters don't understand and they're falling for this trap of, oh, that's socialism and everything else when it's simple money. Now, here's the money part about it. If, let's say, all these student loans get discharged and states like Texas, I mean, I'm sorry, like Indiana is going to charge you, they're still going to tax you on that. You're not going to hang around that state. You're going to pick up and go somewhere else. I don't care what the state is. Pick a state that obviously doesn't have that. What happens when you leave that state? You're taking your tax dollars with you. That's less revenue for the state. Now, besides discharge being more favorable to the state, and I'll tell you why. Because if you save money, then you have money to spend. And whatever you're spending it on is going to get taxed. I don't care if you're going down to your local pub and buying a couple of beers and some appetizers, or you're buying a home. All of that is taxed. The more homes that are bought in an area, the more the prices go up. The more the prices go up, the more taxes go up with it. The more taxes are generated, the more those taxes can be used to fix roads, hire more teachers, hire more cops, whatever you want to do. Put sidewalks in certain neighborhoods. I don't care what it is. So more taxes is a good thing. But if you're scaring away residents, especially we live now in a mobile society, I'm home, right? I got the sun creeping in through my bedroom window here, not bedroom, office window. Um, what now? If I pick up and leave, I'm taking my money with me. And the state isn't going to get that money. And so now they have to get it from somewhere else. So that's the financial part that makes no sense whatsoever. The fact that you're discharging student loans frees up money for these people that could not get a bigger home or a better car or whatever it is that ultimately you're going to tax anyway. Now, to add on top of all of that situation, the fact is, this study said that not only does this cause a problem for retirement, no kidding, which is what I wrote about. If you don't have enough money, if you get 50,000 wiped out, and I have 50,000 towards retirement. But if you don't have that 50,000, where does the money come from? Well, you might start asking for public assistance. If you ask for public assistance, where does that money come from? It comes from taxes. The same taxes that everyone's running out of the state to not have to pay on, or to free up and go to all these different states where they're not going to get nailed with these student loans. So this is a simple financial issue. All you have to do is, actually, let me step back for a second. They don't have to do nothing because there's nothing they can do. See, here's the thing. Don't we always hear about state rights, and that's why abortion was such a big deal, because the Supreme Court, after they all lied and said that they would not overturn Roe v. Wade, didn't they return that to the states, those rights? And isn't that always been the issue, that states are independent from the federal government? Isn't that constitutional law? Yes. So can the president, whether President Biden now or any other president, tell a state, you can't build a school in that neighborhood? No, because you know who's in charge of that? The elected officials. So I'm in Florida in this case. All the funding, however that gets dispersed, you have Governor DeSantis and then all the elected officials, and they say that's where we're going to put the next school. Those elected officials from Florida, state officials, are the ones that make those decisions. It's not the federal government. Now, let's go a step above. The states are always arguing, we want our independent rights, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, when it comes to getting money and COVID relief and all that, they jump all over that. But if you want independent state rights, and you got them because the president cannot control states, since when do states control the federal government? I'll answer that for you very quickly. Never. The states don't have that legal authority. So now let's go back to student loans. Student loans are a state issue, state money, or federal money? It's federal money. So you have now the states saying to the federal government, don't spend your money this way. And don't spend your money this way, even though it benefits our state, because our residents would have more money left over to buy bigger homes, new cars. They get taxed. You see the stupidity and the hypocrisy behind those statements? As much as they make it political, the fact is this is a financial issue. Ooh, I got more sun coming in through here now. So think about that. The states are always arguing, we want state rights, we want to be able to do what we do, and that's granted to them. Sometimes, of course, you have conflicts of law between state and federal, and the courts figure that out. But now you have state courts running to federal court saying, we want to tell the federal courts how not to spend their money, even though it's going to benefit us. It makes no sense whatsoever. I'll tell you how it doesn't make sense. Go back to COVID. All those states were taking COVID money, none of them were complaining, right? How many of those, I think it's 18, 19 states that I rattled off, they're all Republican led states. How many officials that are Republicans oppose the student loan forgiveness? And yet they took COVID relief funds for their businesses, and when they didn't have to pay it back, they were happy, but they're not happy now that their residents would actually receive the benefits of this? Again, it's simple math. Do you want a 55-year-old to start asking for public assistance? No, because that's tax dollars. And again, the more money that is freed up, the more money is going to be spent in that state. And if people can't afford to live there, they're going to pick up and leave. Listen, I love Miami. I was born and raised in Miami. But one of the top reasons I had to leave Miami was finances. The weather was definitely an issue, and all the hurricanes, all those hurricanes, all they did was cost me a lot of money, and I've written about that, the foreclosure that I had because of a hurricane. But on top of that, the bottom line is it's expensive to live in Miami. So I can work two, three times as hard to maintain the same level, or work half as hard and have a bigger house to pay rent and pay mortgage and everything else, and not work as hard. What is anybody going to struggle with that concept? They're not. Now, we're all tied down sometimes to our community because of family and jobs and all that, but we live in a mobile society. So all these states, that especially Florida, that's arguing, let's prevent the federal government with federal government dollars from spending their money, not our own money, that would benefit us, because that is the ridiculous argument that they're making. Well, as a matter of fact, that argument, by the way, is called standing. In the law, you have to have standing, meaning it's got to affect you in a certain way so that you're able to go forward with the lawsuit. So, for example, if you're getting divorced, how do I jump in that? Divorce doesn't affect me. I'm not the one married to you. You got to have a stake. You got to have skin in the game. A lot of those cases have already been dismissed by the court, saying you don't have skin in the game. How is this hurting you? This is only helping you. Why is it helping you? Because of what I just said. And again, if we're living in a mobile society and I work from home, there's your answer. We just pick up and leave. We go to a state that's more favorable to us. And what is common sense going to say? You're not going to go to another state where it's going to cost you more money to live there. You're going to go to states that's going to cost you less money, where the cost of living is less, where the homes are less. What does that mean? It means you now buy a bigger home for less money. You're paid less taxes on that, and now you got more money left over. Who is not going to jump on that deal? That is like me offering you, do you want me to give you the same job you have now, but pay you more and do for half the work? You're going to say yes, of course. And this is no different. But again, these politics, these politicians, unfortunately, I hate to get involved in politics, but I have no choice. They're all Republican led states, and they're the ones that oppose the student loan forgiveness. We have a Democratic president and Biden in office, and I understand that they're always going to be fighting. They're going to not want to have policies, passed by a Democratic president that could be successful. But I got to be honest, even if Trump was in office, this issue wouldn't be discussed because they don't care about this issue. As far as they're concerned, go ahead and pay the student loans. But again, it affects their own bottom dollar. And that's what they're hoping that you, as a voter, does not understand. But just think of the logic. If you can get rid of student loans, and let's say you're in that age bracket, 55 or whatever, and you're able to get rid of student loans and save an extra $500, $700 a month, what are you going to do with that money? Take a cruise, have some fun, right? You deserve that, but you're going to start saving it for retirement. And by the way, that all generates revenue one way or another for the state. So the whole thing is silly. The whole thing is stupid. It's 100% political because there's no one that can argue the logic behind if you can get discharge these loans, it would be a benefit to the state as a whole. People are focusing, thinking, oh, it's a bunch of 22-year-olds that are walking away, and they say all those stupid. I've seen DeSantis say it. I don't know what, I'll go back to the 80s and the Breakfast Club underwater basket weaving courses, and they want to wipe that out for these degrees that mean nothing. Listen, it's not just underwater, basket weaving degrees. It's the law degrees. It's the medical degrees. I think to be a dentist is the most expensive one. I think the average is something like $400,000. People can correct me on that. Uh, $350,000 to go to dental school. Yeah, that's a hard one to swallow. But if this can help, and that dentist is not only giving back to the community, not only financially, but I'll tell you another way. It was an idea of mine in California. I started this. I mentioned this once in a class a long time ago. What if we're allowed to work off our student loans, like community service hours? So if you're a dentist, not me, but if you're a dentist and you donate 10 hours a month to poor income neighborhoods, and they say, I don't know, we'll make up a number, that's $500. The dentist can wipe out $6,500 more in student loans every year. After 10 years at 65,000. Sounds like a good deal, right? Kind of same thing for lawyers. Maybe we can represent those cases that legal aid cannot take, divorces, bankruptcy, whatever. It's just too complicated. Let us step in. Instead of charging $300 an hour, we charge $30 an hour, but that gets deducted from our student loans. So think about the benefit that would do the community if they did that as a whole. Only California is doing that. But again, if we have more time and money freed up, we can do all those things. And at the end of the day, no matter what you're buying, unless you're on Craigslist or something like that, what you're buying is getting taxed. The best way to help a state generate more revenue, which is the only way they do so, is through taxes, and that's through student loan forgiveness. So there's my rant on student loan forgiveness. I'm done. I wrote 2 articles just on that particular issue. I will post those below. If you got any questions or comments, yeah, I'm sure there'll be a lot of people who oppose this student. But again, they're arguing political points. They're not arguing facts. And you got to argue facts based on finances. It's a business at the end of the day. So if you're going to come at me with numbers. Don't come at me with political talking points, which mean nothing but a bunch of gibberish until you vote in November. All right. So take care. And for those of you who have student loans, definitely check out those 2 blogs that I'll post down there below. And I'll see you at the next video. All right. Take care of yourselves. And if you have any questions or comments, post them down below, and I'll be more than happy to respond to you. All right. Take care, everyone, and have a good rest of your day.